Hello and welcome to the Thesis Dissertation Formatting webinar. This session is presented by the Graduate School at UTSA. My name is Lauren Beaver. I'm the Thesis Dissertation Officer here in the Graduate School, and let's go ahead and get started. This presentation will cover 4 basic sections. The first will be your first steps. So that section will talk about deadlines, registration, writing style, just some general information that you need to know as you get started. Then we'll move into the formatting section, and this is the bulk of the presentation. So in this section, we're going to go over the formatting template that the Graduate School offers, and we'll go over that page by page so that you know exactly what you need to do with your document. We will also discuss some other things you need to know with your formatting, such as which fonts are acceptable, what margins to use, and so on. After that, we will talk about the preliminary draft process and what exactly that entails. And then we'll move into the final submission requirements. So we'll talk about what you need to do, what the process is, and a little bit of information about graduation. So it's a long presentation, bear with me, but thanks for joining me with this. It's very important information. The other thing I'd like to let you know is that this recorded webinar does incorporate the changes that were made to the formatting and to the final requirements in the spring 2014 semester. So before we talk about your first steps, we have a thesis dissertation webpage. To get there, you go to the Graduate School main site, which is graduateschool.utsa.edu. From there, in the right-hand menu, click on Thesis Dissertation, and that will take you to the Thesis Dissertation page, which is this right here. So the Thesis Dissertation webpage has all of the information that we actually talk about today in the webinar. So it has the template, and you can download that. It also has a couple other formatting documents that you should download, including the preparation guidelines and frequently asked questions. The frequently asked questions actually has even more information than the webinar does today, and it is something that we update every semester based on what students have been asking us. So it's a wealth of knowledge, and it's very important to read that. You can also find the deadlines, more information on the preliminary draft process, the final requirements, and more. So make sure that you really get to know this part of the website. So, first things that you need to know when you hit your graduation semester and you're getting ready to do your formatting and defend, etc., there are several deadlines that you need to know. So the first one that you need to know is the deadline to apply for graduation on ASAP. This deadline is actually is actually controlled by the Graduation Coordination Office, which is in the Office of the Registrar. So this is not a graduate school deadline. It does vary from semester to semester, and it's important that you know it. If you check the graduation application deadline and discover that you've missed it or you've forgotten to apply, just contact Graduation Coordination at 210-458-7554, and they can help you out. But remember, the application for graduation is not done through the graduate school, so be sure to contact the registrar's office about that, Graduation Coordination. The next deadline that you need to know is the preliminary draft deadline. Now, this deadline is handled by the graduate school. So this is the deadline to submit a preliminary draft to the graduate school for a formatting review. This is an important deadline. We strongly encourage everyone to submit a preliminary draft, and it allows us to find any formatting errors that you have in your document before you prepare and submit your final document. So remember, that's very strongly encouraged. And then the last deadline that you need to know when you hit your graduating semester is the final deadline. This is the day that all final requirements are due to the graduate school, and it is always by 5 p.m. on the deadline day. So the preliminary draft deadline and the final deadline you can find on that thesis dissertation webpage that we discussed on the previous slide. We do our best to get those deadlines posted when possible, a couple semesters in advance, so you can take a look and see what we've got. If it's not there yet, just check back later, and your deadlines will be posted as soon as possible. Okay, another thing you need to know as you get started is the policy about registering for thesis and dissertation hours. So it's important to note that this material is taken directly from the current graduate catalog, and basically what this is it's telling you that you need to be registered for thesis or dissertation hours in any semester that you work on your thesis or dissertation. So this here is the policy for master's students for master's thesis, and this is the one for doctoral students for their dissertation. Essentially, they say the same thing. So in summary, what these policies say is that you must be enrolled in thesis or dissertation hours in any semester that you work on your document or receive university assistance. So what that means is, let's say that your program requires you to take 6 hours of master's thesis or 6 hours of doctoral dissertation. And you complete those 6 hours, but you're not done with your document. You still need to keep working on it. You need to keep enrolling in thesis or dissertation hours until you're done with your document. So this includes the semester that you defend and submit your final document to the graduate school. So basically, just remember, as long as you're working on it, you need to be registered for thesis or dissertation hours. Okay, next up, writing style. Most programs here on campus have an assigned writing style, and when we say that, we're referring to writing styles like APA, Chicago, etc. These writing styles differ from program to program. If you're not sure what one you should be using, you need to ask your supervising professor. If they're not sure, you can also use the Turabian Manual for Writers, or if you have questions about what your writing style is, you can visit the UTSA library. So, why do we mention writing style? Well, what you're going to discover as we continue moving on through this presentation is that your thesis or dissertation is a balance between your assigned writing style and our required formatting. Now, the reason we direct you to your supervising professor or your committee chair or to the library is because we don't read the content of your thesis or dissertation. Because of that, we don't check your writing style. So we're not checking your citations, for example. What we are checking is our required formatting. So the required formatting exists so that all master's theses and doctoral dissertations from UTSA have a uniform look, so that anytime you open up a dissertation or a thesis from UTSA, it's recognizable as a thesis or dissertation from UTSA. They all have to look the same. So that's what we're checking. So your writing style, remember, we don't check, but we do check the required formatting. And like I said, it's a little bit of a balance. We try to be very clear about when our required formatting overrides your writing style and when we defer to your writing style. So throughout this presentation, when we start going over the template, you'll hear me say, regardless of what writing style you have, you're going to do this. Or in this case, we defer to your writing style, so refer to that for what to do here. So you'll hear that a couple times, and I try to be really clear about it. Now the good news is we have formatting templates that you can download from our website. So this is the direct link to where you can get those formatting templates. We have them available in both Word format and in the LaTeX LYX format. So download whichever one is more appropriate for your document. Now, you're able to download these and type directly into them. They're guidelines for what your documents need to look like. I strongly encourage anyone who's working on their thesis dissertation to download a template and use it. It will make your life much easier. All right, so this is what we check. The required formatting looks like this. So this is the list of pages in the template. Now, there's a required sequence. These pages appear in a certain order for a reason. Everyone's document needs to be in this order. So as you can see here, this is the mandatory order of pages. Do not change the order in which your pages appear. Why do I point that out? Well, here's the first example of when our formatting overrides your writing style. So we'll use APA writing style as an example. In the APA writing style, the appendices actually appear after everything else. They're the last thing in the document. However, you'll notice that here they appear after your text, after any endnotes you have, but before your references and your vita. That's important, and it needs to stay in that order. So, regardless of what your writing style says, this is the order that you will follow for your document. Make sure everything appears in that order. So these are also all the pages that we're going to go over as we start looking at the template. So let's go ahead and start with our review of the template so that you can see exactly what you need to do. Now, this template is exactly what is on the website to download. So like I said, when you're done watching this webinar, go download our template so that you can use that to help with formatting your document. All right. So the first page of your document is called the signature page. This is the page that lists your title and your committee. So the title needs to be centered, bold, all capital letters, and double-spaced. It will be in an inverted pyramid shape if it's more than one line long, and that just means upside down triangle. So the top line will be the longest, the bottom line will be the shortest. Okay? Then, down here in the bottom corner, we have the signature block. So this is where you're listing your committee. Under each line, you will list first name, last name, PhD. That's the format that the names need to appear in. So, for example, your committee name should be written John Smith, PhD, not Dr. John Smith, not Professor John Smith, not Dr. John Smith, PhD, but their first name, their last name, and then their degree. The first line is for the chair of your committee, not the chair of your department. You will have as many lines as you have committee members. So if you have more committee members than this, add lines. If you have fewer committee members, take them away. The last line is for the dean of the graduate school, and you will notice that it does not say first name, last name here. That's because you do not add a name to the dean of the graduate school's line. It will stay exactly like this. The other thing I'll let you know is that if you have more than one chair, so let's say you have two co-chairs, each of them will be listed as co-chair, and that's stated here. One other thing that I should mention before we continue with the template is that when you download the template, anytime you see this red text, this is instructional text, and it will be deleted from the template when you're finished formatting. This just tells you what to do. There is no page number on this page, so note that there's no page number down here at the bottom center. Now this is one of the pages that is experiencing changes as of spring 2014. Beginning in the spring 2014 semester, this page actually will not be signed. So it will have all of your committee names in here, but you no longer have to obtain signatures on it. When you upload your document to ProQuest, which we will discuss later on when we go over your final requirements, it is uploaded to ProQuest without signatures on it. That policy has not changed. We have never allowed signatures uploaded onto ProQuest. We'll discuss that later in the presentation. So just remember, this needs to be formatted correctly, but you no longer need to actually obtain physical signatures on this page. Okay, so moving on. The next page is the copyright. The copyright is actually optional. If you choose to purchase the copyright, it will be purchased through ProQuest. Again, we're going to discuss ProQuest later on in the presentation. If you do purchase the copyright, this is what needs to be included on this page. The statement copyright, the year you graduate, your name as it appears on file with the registrar, and then all rights reserved. So if you choose not to purchase the copyright, you're going to delete this entire page from your document. It will just go away. Another thing to note, we still do not have any page numbers at the bottom center. So this page is counted towards your total page count, but there's no page number typed on the page. Okay? Next up is your dedication. This is another optional page. If you would like to include a dedication, you are more than welcome to. The dedication basically should be, short but sweet. You can dedicate your document to whoever you would like to dedicate it to. This is example text here. So the dedication should be single-spaced, and it should be italicized and in 12-point font. No more than 7 to 10 lines for your dedication. If you go longer than that, we will ask you to shorten it. Now again, there's no page number, but it does say that this page is counted, so it adds to the total page count, but there's no page number on the page. That will make more sense in a moment once we get to the first page with the page number. And like with the copyright page, since the dedication is optional, if you choose not to include a dedication, you will delete this page completely from your document. After that, the title page. So the title page has a lot of interesting spacing on it. You'll notice that we have double spacing, we have large gaps, we have single spacing. So my recommendation is make sure you use the template for correct spacing. Even if you just look at it and compare it to your document, make sure the spacing matches up. So again, the title appears up at the top of your document the same way it did on the signature page. So all capital letters, bold, double spaced, inverted pyramid. If it's more than one line long, so again, top line is longest, bottom line is shortest. Then you'll come down here and you'll put your name. So your name will be in all capital letters, and then it will be followed by the degree that you last received. So not the one that you're currently working on, but your last degree. And only include the abbreviation. So if you had a Bachelor of Arts in English, then you will put BA. If you had a Master of Science in Chemistry, it will say MS. So don't put the subject area, just put the abbreviation of the degree. So BA, BS, MS, MA, etc. Down here, that you will put thesis, or if you're doing a dissertation, replace it with the word dissertation, and use this text exactly as it appears. Do not change this block of text. You'll put the name of your degree in all capital letters. Now this is the degree that you are currently working on. Make sure that you get the name of the degree correct. So if you need to refer to the catalog, that's fine. But for example, it is Master of Science in Chemistry, not Masters in Chemistry. Another example would be a Doctor of Philosophy in Physics, not a Doctorate in Physics. So make sure that you're getting that wording correct. Then you'll have a space, and you'll come down here to the bottom of the page, put the University of Texas at San Antonio in all capital letters, the name of your college. So college names, you would be surprised, but there are actually a lot of errors with this. Your colleges, for example, the College of Architecture, College of Business, College of Engineering, College of Education and Human Development, College of Liberal and Fine Arts. That's one that we actually commonly see an error with. It's College of Liberal and Fine Arts, not the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. So remember, COLFA, COLFA, College of Liberal and Fine Arts. Then we have College of Public Policy and a College of Sciences. That's another one that often has an error with it. It's sciences with an S on the end, not just science. I think I got all the colleges there. Next up is the name of your department. Remember, department names sometimes change. So if you're unsure of this, check the current graduate catalog or ask the admin in your department just to make sure that you get your department correct. And then at the very bottom of the page, you have the month and year that your degree was awarded. So this is the month and year of your graduation, not the month and year that you defend. So your options are May for a spring graduation, August for summer, or December for fall, followed by the year that you graduate. So if you were graduating, for example, in the spring semester in 2014, it would say May 2014. So make sure that you get that date correct. You only have those three options. And again, we still don't have a page number. This page is counted again towards the total page count, but there is no page number typed on this page. And all of that is about to make sense as we move on to the acknowledgments page. So we'll jump ahead and then we'll backtrack to all of this formatting up here. Let's talk about the page number. This is the first page with the page number. It's a lowercase Roman numeral, and depending on if you included the copyright and the dedication, this will be either page 2, 3, or 4, because remember, the copyright, the dedication, and the title page, even though they don't have page numbers typed on them, add to the total page count. So even though there's no page number on it, copyright is technically 1, dedication is technically 2, title page would technically be 3, and that means that here on the first page with the typed page number, it's 4. If you take away the copyright, this becomes 3. If you take away the copyright and the dedication, this becomes 2. It will never be page 1. If you're confused about it, just follow the template and leave this at page 4. Okay? So that's what we meant when we said things were counted towards the total page count, but there was no page number on them. The acknowledgments is your first page with a page number. So backing up, we have one of our headings. It is in all caps, bold, centered. You'll notice that all of the headings in the document so far have been formatted like that. The acknowledgments page is for recognition and acknowledgement of professional or financial assistance. You now have up to 3 pages for your acknowledgments. So if you need to, you can put in some personal acknowledgments here, but do not exceed 3 pages. Now, the acknowledgments, unlike the dedication, are required. So the dedication you can or cannot include, it's optional, but the acknowledgments you do have to include. Like I said, the length limit is 3 pages. Make sure you indent the first line of the paragraph, double space your text, and then the rest of the acknowledgments is up to you. So down here at the bottom, once you have completed your acknowledgments, the month and year of your graduation will be centered over the page number. So if you have more than 1 page of acknowledgments, let's say you have 3 pages of acknowledgments, the date will appear over the page number on your last page of your acknowledgments. After the acknowledgments comes the abstract page. So the abstract, again, we have our title up here at the top, so it's in that inverted pyramid format, bold, all capital letters, double spaced, centered, After your title, you'll put your name followed by the abbreviation of the degree you're currently working on, so your master's or your doctoral degree. Remember, don't put the subject area, just the abbreviation, so MA, MS, PhD, EDD, etc. Underneath that line, University of Texas at San Antonio, followed by the year that you graduate. Skip a line, and then put your supervising professor. So again, it's first name, last name, PhD, not Dr. John Smith. If you have co-chairs, you'll put both of them. So you would just say supervising professors, John Smith, PhD, and Jane Doe, PhD, whatever their names happen to be. Now, the abstract itself is a concise summary of your research. So you want to state the purpose of your study, talk about your methods of research, summarize your conclusions, etc. Now, it does have a length limit. It should not exceed 250 words or approximately 1.5 pages double-spaced. And this right here, this is what we're looking at. We look to make sure that you don't go over 1.5 pages of double-spaced text. Make sure you do not single-space it. It says double-spacing for a reason. And you will notice we've continued with our lowercase Roman numeral page numbers. These are going to continue for the next few pages. After the abstract comes your table of contents. So the table of contents will vary a little bit depending on how many chapters you have, whether you've included your subtitles in your table of contents, etc. So this page is a little flexible, but this shows you the basic formatting. With your table of contents, do not single space the entire table of contents. You need to have a space in between each entry. What we look at is that you have included all of your main headings. So it starts with the acknowledgments, abstract, list of tables, list of figures. You'll see these in a moment. All of your chapter titles, and then any appendices, your references, and your vita. Remember, this is an example here with conclusion, chapter 1, etc. You may not have a conclusion that's not a chapter. Your conclusion may be a chapter. You may have an introduction or a preface. Just make sure that you include whatever your chapter titles are. After each main title, you have leader dots that go over to the right edge of the page, and then your page numbers will be listed down the side. The only one that does not include leader dots in a page number is the vita. That's intentional. Do not put leader dots or a page number after the vita. This is an example of including subtitles. If you choose to include subtitles in your table of contents, you need to include all subtitles. So for example, you cannot decide to add a couple subtitles for chapter 1, but not include them for chapter 3, 4, and 5, and then include them again on chapter 6. If you include subtitles, you have to include all subtitles. If you don't want to include subtitles, don't include them at all. Okay, so after the table of contents comes your list of tables. This is required if you have any tables in your document. Even if you only have one, you have to have a list of tables. So tables themselves will be numbered and titled according to your writing style. So for example, some of you may list them as table 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutively throughout the document. Others may have table 1.1, 1.2, table 2.1, 2.2, etc. by chapter. Either of those numbering systems is fine. What we look for is that you follow this formatting. So you'll have table, the number, hit tab, and then type your table title here, insert the leader dots, and put the page number along the side. Okay, so that's what happens for all of them. If you have a table title that is long and continues on to more than one line, here's an example of how to handle it. Make sure that you indent the second line of the title, or third line or fourth line, however many there are, so that it lines up here. Now on the template that we have, in both the table of contents and the list of tables and the list of figures, when you want to include your leader dots, we have it set up so that when you finish typing your title, you can hit the tab button and it will insert the dots for you, and then you can type in your page number. List of figures, same formatting. So again, it's required even if you have only one figure in your document, you have to have a list of figures, and it needs to start on a new page. So the list of figures and the list of table and the list of figures cannot be on the same page. They're on new pages. The other thing I'll mention before we move on to the next page is that with your table of contents, your list of tables, and your list of figures, if you choose to use an automatic table of contents in Word, you can do that. We do not have our template set up that way because some people are using older versions of Word and it's incompatible to have an automatic table set up. But if you choose to use the automatic table of contents feature, you just need to make sure to adjust your formatting so that it matches what you see in the template for your list of tables, list of figures, and table of contents. If you do not know what an automatic table of contents is in Word, don't even worry about it. Go ahead and just follow the template and do it manually. Okay, so now we've finished with the opening pages. So pay attention to the page number. We're still using our lowercase Roman numerals, but as we move into the first page of your text, we have now switched. This is the first page with an Arabic numeral. So the first page of your text, whether it's chapter 1, whether it's an introduction, a preface, whatever it is, it will be page 1 in a regular Arabic numeral. Okay, so we've switched over to these numerals. These page numbers will continue all the way through the last page of your references. Up here at the top, every chapter must begin on a new page. So when you finish a chapter, you go to the top of the next page to start the next one. Your chapter titles will all be centered, bold, and in all capital letters, regardless of your writing style for all of this. And then you begin your text. So within your text, you're going to follow, for the majority of the time, your writing style. So you're using your writing style for subtitles, indents, citations, etc. However, page numbers follow our template. Regardless of what writing style you are using, your page numbers must appear in the bottom center of the page. Don't move this page number. If you put it over here in the bottom right corner, if you put it in the top left, anywhere else, we will ask you to move it, and we will not be able to accept that for your formatting. So make sure it's in the bottom center. All right, moving on through the body of your text. Here is an example of a subtitle. So remember, this is just an example. So what it states here is that subheading is formatted according to your writing style. The subtitle above is an example of just one type of acceptable subheading. So if your writing style says that your subtitles should be centered in bold, make sure they're centered in bold. If your writing style asks you to put your subtitles to the left and number them, do that. So make sure that you read this red text that states, depending on your writing style, subtitles may be centered, left justified, numbered, etc. So subtitles are your writing style. Here's an example of a table. Tables, we're also going to talk a little bit more about tables and figures later in the presentation, so this is, again, just a quick example. Tables are labeled above the table, regardless of your writing style. So up here, this is where the label goes. So instead of having it below the table, make sure it's up here. So table 1, title, and again, use your writing style for how you number it, if there's any formatting for the title itself, or if they have specific formatting for what the table itself should look like. Just remember, what we look for is that your table heading is up here above. All right. On this page, here's an example of Chapter 2. You'll see that, like we discussed earlier, it begins on a new page. So we did not begin Chapter 2 at the bottom of the previous page. We started it here. Again, chapter titles, bold, centered, all caps, double-spaced. And here's an example of a figure. So figures are labeled below. Regardless of your writing style, figures are below. So that's what you need to remember. Tables above, figures below. Just like with tables, how you number your figures, if you need any specific formatting for the title, all of that's your writing style. So figures can be centered, left justified, etc. But what we look for with figures is that you're consistent. So if you put one figure left justified, all of them should be left justified. If you center them, all of them should be centered. The other thing, and you'll notice it here in this example, is that the text needs to stop above the figure and continue again below the figure. Do not wrap your text around the figure. So for example, this text here cannot continue along down here. You can't continue having your text all the way around. It needs to stop above and continue below. Another thing that I can mention with figures is if your writing style allows it, you can also put figures on separate pages. So if you do not want text above and below your figures, you can have a figure alone on a page with its label, but make sure that your writing style allows that. All right, after you have finished your the last page of your text, if you have any appendices, they will come here. So the appendix, or if you have more than one, appendices, these appear immediately after your text, so on the very next page, regardless of your writing style. So do not place the appendix after everything else. The appendix comes after your final chapter and before your references. Appendices are materials that are peripheral but relevant to the main text. So, for example, we see surveys, flyers, computer code, maybe extra tables or figures that you have. If you're not sure if you need to include an appendix or what you should include in the appendices, I would talk to your supervising professor. That way you can talk to your chair, to your committee members, and see what they recommend. You may not have an appendix. You may have lots of appendices, but it really depends on your document. However, one thing to mention is if you have an approval letter from the IRB, then that approval letter must appear in an appendix. So if your study required approval from the IRB, you will definitely have at least one appendix. That's all that we're going to say about the IRB letter because not everyone has it. So if you need more information on the IRB approval, download the preparation guidelines document and it will give you more information on how to handle that. After the appendices come the references. Alternately, this can also be called the works cited or the bibliography. Those are your three options. Again, title is up here, bold, centered, all capital letters, just like all of the titles we've seen in our document. And then for your references, you're going to format them according to your writing style. The only thing that we really look for in your references is that you are consistent, so your references are all formatted the same way. And we check your spacing. You have two options for your spacing, and you need to check with your writing style to see which one is allowed. The first option is that you double space it. So everything would be double spaced. The second option is what we've shown here as an example, and that is that the entries themselves are single spaced, and a space has been placed manually between each entry. Now, I can't stress enough that references follow your writing style. This is, again, just like with the subtitle, this is just one example of correct formatting that we took from a previous student's document when they allowed us to show their references as one example of what's accepted. You have to follow your writing style for your references. For example, if you're using APA, your references will look quite different to this. Okay, before I move to the next page, you'll notice we're still using our Arabic numeral page numbers. But when we go to the next page, which is the Vita, it's gone. There is no page number on the Vita page. That's very important. So the Vita is, again, required. We get that question a lot. You do have to write the Vita. It's mandatory. It is not a curriculum vitae. It is not a resume. It's a short biographical summary of yourself. So it's just a paragraph about you. You're going to write it in third person. So, for example, he did this, she did that. Not I studied or I researched, but he did, she did. You will not include contact information, so no phone numbers, no addresses, no emails. Don't include a resume and don't include a list of publications. That's not what this page is. Basically what this page is it's like when you get to the end of a novel and there's that little blurb about the author. That's what you're doing. You're writing a little paragraph about you. So an example of a Vita is here. Jane Doe is from San Antonio. She studied higher education administration and earned a bachelor's and master's degree in education from UTSA. Her future plans include attending a PhD program. And that's fine. That's completely acceptable. So use this as a guideline. You can write as much or as little as you want. We've seen Vitas that are only one sentence long. We've also seen Vitas that fill up the full page. However, that's the length limit. You may not exceed one page. The text in the Vita should be double-spaced, just like the rest of your document. Like I said, it should be in third person, paragraph style, and indent the first line. And then again, just one more reminder, there's no page number on this page. So that was the end of the template. So those are the pages that you need to include. Now, there are a few more technical things that you need to know about the formatting. The first thing is margins. This document does have slightly abnormal margins from what most people are used to. The top and the left margin are 1.25 inches. The bottom and the right margin are 0.75 inches. And this is just done to help with the binding process because you do have the option to purchase bound copies from ProQuest. Like I said, we will discuss ProQuest much more later on in the presentation, so that's all I'll say about it now. But remember to always double check your margins. They are set up currently in our template. However, sometimes, especially if you're using Word, Word can be a little tricky, and sometimes the margins go away. So just always be sure to check your margins throughout your document. Spacing. We talked about spacing a little bit as we went through the template, and it does vary sometimes in these pages. So if you'll recall, the signature and the title page have very specific spacing. There are sections that are double-spaced, single-spaced, etc., all on one page. Refer to the template for those pages because you do need to match it. You need to make sure you have the right spacing. Throughout the rest of the manuscript, it should be double-spaced, or you can do 1.5 spacing throughout the document. Now, to be very honest with you, most students double space. This is the standard spacing that we see. So here are examples of your spacing. This text is double spaced. It's acceptable for your entire document. Here you see 1.5 spacing, and then single spacing. This spacing is only acceptable in certain parts of your document. So pages or items that can be single spaced if you so choose are quotations, footnotes, or lengthy tables. So let's say you have a long table that just goes 1 or 2 lines onto the next page. You can single space that to bring that up onto one page. Then you also have the option to single space entries with a space between each entry in the bibliography. If you have any endnotes in your table of contents, your list of tables, and list of figures. So that's what we were talking about when we looked at the references section in the template. Those entries were single-spaced with a manual space put in between each one. So if you want to do that in these items, you can. When we say endnotes, we are referring to actual endnotes, not the program that writes your references for you, but endnotes, which we don't see very often, but some students include at the end of chapters. They're like footnotes. So if you don't know what endnotes are, then you're probably not going to include them. Most students include footnotes if they need to do anything like that, but again, it does depend on what you prefer or what's acceptable by your writing style. Fonts. Times New Roman or Arial. Those are your two choices. Decorative fonts are not acceptable, so no script fonts, no wingdings, nothing like that. The exception is if you're doing equations. You usually have a specific font that the equations have to be in. That's fine. That's different. But the rest of your document needs to be Times New Roman or Arial. It is a professional document, and so we need to stick with standard fonts. Your font size should be size 12 throughout the whole document. Now, optionally, if you so choose, you can use size 14 font for your headings. But remember, if you use a size 14 font on your headings, you have to use it for all headings. So that includes the heading for your actual thesis or dissertation, the heading on the dedication page, acknowledgments page, abstract, etc., all of your chapter titles, everything. So it's all or nothing. The same with table and figure labels. So if you want, your table and figure labels can be size 10. So you can go a size smaller, but again, be consistent. If you change one table heading to 10, all of your table and figure labels should be 10. And then footnotes. Footnotes are a little separate. Footnotes, go ahead and put those in 10-point font. It makes them stand out. But for everything else, the recommendation is just use size 12 font for, for everything, for your text, for your headings, for your table and figure labels, all of it. If you put everything in size 12, you'll save yourself some time. You won't have to worry about, did I remember to put all of my headings in 14? Did I remember to shrink all my table headings down to 10? Just put everything in 12. Speaking of tables and figures, as we discussed, they are labeled differently, and that's because tables and figures are two distinct items. So they are labeled differently. Within the manuscript, tables are numbered and labeled above, and figures are numbered and labeled below. So here you can see examples of that. The table heading came above the table, the figure heading comes below the figure. So just remember, tables above, figures below. Now you might find yourself with a table or a figure that breaks across a page. So whenever a table or a figure continues on to more than one page, then the second page or in the third and fourth, however many pages it continues on to, needs to include a continued label. So for tables, the main table heading appears above the table on the first page with the table. So here we've got our main table heading, and then on every page that the table continues on to, you'll put table, the number, and continued above the table. With figures, remember they're labeled below. So on the first page that the figure starts on, you'll have the main figure label below the figure, and then on every page that the figure continues on, you will put figure, the number, and continued. So just remember, with both tables and figures, the main heading appears on the first page that it starts on, and every subsequent page that it continues on to will have a continued label. Page numbers. We've discussed page numbers. We went over that with the template, but they're important, and so we're going to do it one more time. So with page numbers, remember, they're all at the bottom center of the page, regardless of your writing style, so don't move them around. And they do change throughout the document. So when we start off, the signature page, copyright, dedication, and title page do not have page numbers typed on the page. No page number on those pages. Then with the acknowledgments page, we begin with our lowercase Roman numerals. Typically, the acknowledgments page starts on page 4, and those lowercase Roman numerals continue through the abstract, table of contents, list of tables, and list of figures. Once you hit the first page of your text, you switch over to Arabic numerals. The first page of your text begins on page 1. It will continue all the way through the rest of your document, through the final page of your references, and then when we get to the vita, once again, there's no page number on the vita page. Now, if you need help with your page numbers, let's say you get working on your document and realize that you've lost all of your page numbers, if you download the FAQs document that we discussed at the beginning of this presentation, it does have step-by-step instructions for how to set your page numbers back up. So make sure you download that. It's very simple in Word. If you haven't done it before, it just takes doing it once or twice and then you'll be fine. Okay. Speaking of pages and page numbers, landscape pages. Now this is in Word. If you're using LaTeX or LYX, you're fine. It does this automatically. But for Word users, you need to know how to handle landscape pages if you have them. So this is a very quick overview. Like I said with the previous slide, if you have questions on how to do this and you need step-by-step instructions, download the FAQs document. It does have step-by-step instructions for how to fix your landscape pages. I'm just going to do a very quick overview since not everyone will have landscape pages in their document. So the problem with landscape pages is that Word places the landscape page numbers incorrectly. It views your landscape page like this, and it thinks that this is the bottom center of the page. That creates a problem when your document is stacked up as if you're going to print it. Suddenly, when all your pages are rotated to face the same direction, now your page number's up here. So we can't do that. So your page number needs to be moved by hand. So unfortunately, there's no way to do it automatically in Word. It is a manual process. So here's the basic overview. Remember, detailed instructions are in the FAQs. You need to create a section break between your last portrait style page and your landscape page. You will unlink your new section from the previous one. So you unlink the landscape page from the portrait style page, and you delete the incorrect page number that was down here. Then you use a text box that makes sure you have no border and no fill color in the text box, so basically make it transparent. There's a button to change the text direction. You want it to face this direction. You're pulling your page number over here to the left-hand side of your page. You want to make sure the page number is completely visible after you type it in the text box. And then, like I said, just drag and drop over here to the left side of the page. Once you've done that, this is what it looks like when all of your pages are rotated. Okay? So you do have to move the page numbers by hand. The other option, and it doesn't work for everyone, is if you have figures, you can just rotate the figure on a regular portrait style page, and then you can use a text box and rotate it so that it sits underneath. Either way, play with your landscape pages if you have any, and download the FAQs so that you have instructions on how to fix that. All right, so we've now finished discussing the formatting section of the presentation, and we're going to move on to the preliminary draft. The preliminary draft basically is just submitting a rough draft of your thesis or dissertation to the graduate school for a formatting check. Now, this is very strongly recommended. The students who turn in preliminary drafts typically have fewer problems, if any problems, when they submit their final document to the graduate school, because we've been able to find and correct your formatting errors before you produce your final copy. Now, like I said, it is strongly recommended. It's not required, but it is very strongly recommended that you turn in a preliminary draft in your graduating semester. If you are not yet in your graduating semester, please wait until your graduating semester to turn in a preliminary draft due to the very high number of drafts that our office receives. At the time, you do need to submit as a printed copy to the graduate school. We're located in the Plaza Norte building in room 2.210 on the main campus. Your preliminary draft does not need to be 100% complete. So, if you haven't finished all of your chapters, that's fine. Go ahead and turn in your preliminary draft so that we can check what you do have and get you on the right track with your formatting. Preliminary drafts, if possible, are typically submitted prior to the defense. It's best if you print single-sided. It makes it easier for us to do the review so that we can check your margins and get through your document. You can use regular paper and then submit it by the preliminary draft deadline. Remember to check the website for deadlines for your graduating semester. So here's the process for turning in your preliminary draft. It's very easy. So like I said on the previous slide, you're submitting your copy to the graduate school in the Plaza Norte building, room 2.210. On or any time before the preliminary draft deadline in your graduating semester. You don't have to wait until the preliminary draft deadline. So for example, if you're ready to go a month or two before that deadline, go ahead and turn it in and we will check your formatting. Once you've turned it in, the thesis dissertation officer, me, will review your document's formatting. I will mark up your document, write down your revisions, and I prepare a revision packet for you that includes a copy of your document, a list of your revisions, and then information on the final requirements, and you get all of that back so you can take it with you and work on your formatting. After I've done your review, which typically takes 1 to 3 days, just depending on how many documents have come in, I will contact you to schedule your formatting appointment. So the appointment is scheduled after I've reviewed your document. During the appointment, we'll go over your revisions, final submission requirements and process, any questions that you have, and if you need another review of your formatting or if you want another review of your formatting, we can discuss that as well. If you need a second review, I will recommend it to you, and that's okay. So we'll discuss that during your appointment. It is important to note this. You do not need to schedule an appointment to drop off your draft for review. Just walk in, give it to the graduate school's front desk. They'll have you fill out a drop-off form, and then after I've reviewed your document, I will contact you and I'll schedule your appointment to go over your revisions. So remember that one. That one's important. Now, a question I get a lot of the time is, I'm out of town on the preliminary draft deadline. I live out of state. How can I get my preliminary draft to you? Go ahead and just email me. Send me an email, let me know your situation, and I'll give you some instructions. To be very honest, the instructions, if you cannot get to campus, are for emailing it, but you do need to contact me ahead of time to let me know. We prefer to receive hard copies if you are here in town, because then we can give you your materials back with the revisions and my notes written all over it. But if you're not here, send me an email, let me know your situation, and I will give you the instructions for the alternate submission. And that was preliminary draft. It's super easy. It's very helpful. I recommend everybody does it, so I look forward to working with you with it. And now let's move on to the final submission requirements. So the final submission requirements have changed as of the spring 2014 semester. These are the final submission requirements. You need to submit one electronic copy of your manuscript to the ProQuest website, and if you're a doctoral student, you need to complete the online survey of earned doctorates. The link is on the grad school website. We're going to talk about both of those in more detail in just a minute. Remember that your final submission requirements are due by the final deadline, and you need to check the website for that deadline in your graduating semester. Make sure you know this deadline. So what's changed? Well, printed copies are no longer required. As of spring 2014, the 2 final printed copies are no longer a final submission requirement. As of spring 2014, your ProQuest submission now serves as the UTSA archival copy. The library is no longer accepting printed copies for binding, so please do not turn in 2 printed copies to the graduate school. That is no longer a final requirement. That has been removed, and we cannot accept those copies. So your signature page. You'll remember when we were going over the formatting, I mentioned that the signature page is no longer signed. Because you're not turning in printed copies to the graduate school, you don't need to get that page signed. It will be included unsigned in your upload to ProQuest. And like I said earlier, that policy has not changed. We have never allowed signed signature pages on ProQuest, and the reason for that is just to avoid any possible forging issues, people copying or pasting signatures from documents. So it goes in with the signature page, just no signatures on it. And again, that's our standard process, and that policy has not changed. But without the signature page being signed anymore, and without those 2 final printed copies being turned in, what shows approval of your document? Well, if you're a doctoral student, nothing has changed. You have several doctoral forms that are filled out, including, for example, your program of study, your appointment of your doctoral dissertation committee, etc. And one of those forms is the certification of completion of doctoral dissertation requirements. This is usually filled out and completed at your defense or right after your defense. And you'll notice when you look at that form that your committee members sign off on it. So that is the approval for your document as of spring 2014. If you're a master's student, there is a new form. It is the certification of completion of master's thesis requirements, and you can see it here to the side. This, just like I mentioned with the doctoral one, needs to be completed either at your defense or immediately afterward, and it will be routed by your college to the graduate school for the dean's signature. So make sure that you get this form filled out. It is a new form, and it is available on the faculty staff section of our website for download, and it will also be available on the thesis dissertation section in the current students page. So doctoral students, nothing's changed. You're still going to have the doctoral dissertation form filled out. Master's students, you have the new form. Make sure that the certification of completion of master's thesis requirements for the master's degree form is completed, and your college will route it to the graduate school for approval. All right, so let's talk about what your final submission requirements are. Without those 2 printed copies, ProQuest is the big one. ProQuest is your electronic submission now, and it is also the UTSA library archival copy. So ProQuest is required. It is mandatory. There is no fee to upload your thesis or dissertation. However, some of the optional add-ons do have fees. We'll discuss those as we move through the ProQuest section. ProQuest is very easy to do. Takes anywhere between about 15 and 30 minutes typically to complete the submission. So what you need to do is follow the ProQuest link on the thesis dissertation webpage that we discussed at the beginning of this presentation. Create an account with ProQuest and get logged in. Once you're logged in, follow the on-screen instructions. ProQuest is going to walk you through the entire submission process step by step. It's very easy. The nice thing with ProQuest is you get to customize everything. They're going to ask you various questions about how you want them to handle your document. You get to make all the decisions. It's your document, so you get to choose the type of publication you want, whether you want search engines to find it, if you need to delay your publication, whether you want the copyright, whether you want to buy bound copies, etc. All of it is completely up to you. With your ProQuest submission, you have to upload your document as a PDF file, so you can't upload the Word document. The best thing to do when you convert your document to a PDF is to save it as a PDF on your own computer. So if you're working with Word, go into File and Save As, and save it as a PDF document. If you're working in LaTeX, then you're all set. You've already got a PDF. Once you save your PDF, open it up, scroll through it, make sure that none of your formatting has shifted, make sure all of your figures and equations, make sure they're all visible. So do a quick review before you just upload your PDF. Sometimes when the document is converted to PDF, things shift around, and so it will save you time if you check it before you upload it. Otherwise, we'll catch the formatting error and we will contact you, you'll fix it, and you'll re-upload your document. If you cannot save a PDF on your own, ProQuest does have a conversion tool on their website. However, sometimes students have been known to have difficulty with this, so I very strongly encourage you, if you're working in Word, to save it on your own through Word on your own computer. There is a size limit with ProQuest. It's 1,000 megabytes. Documents larger than this cannot be uploaded to ProQuest. As of yet, we have not had anyone have trouble with this size limit. The closest anyone has ever come, the largest document we've had has been about 650 megabytes. So hopefully everybody should be okay with this size limit. Now, if you do happen to be the student who gets to exceed 1,000 megabytes, it can't be uploaded to ProQuest, so you will need to contact me, and my email will be at the end of this presentation, and you'll need to contact ProQuest for instructions on how to get your document to them. They do have backup instructions for that, so if it happens to you, don't worry. With ProQuest, one of the options that you have is to purchase the copyright. Now remember, copyright is optional, and there is a fee for purchasing it. The fee is $55, and that fee is actually for ProQuest to do everything for you. They do your copyright application, they use the $55 for your copyright application fee, they deposit a copy of your document with the Library of Congress, they do all of it. So all you have to do is tell them, yes, I would like to file for a new copyright, and a few weeks later you get your copyright notice in the mail. Remember, copyright is optional, so if you do not want to purchase the copyright, that's fine, but if you choose not to purchase it, you need to delete the copyright page from your document. So that's what we'll say about copyright. If you are interested in purchasing it, when you go through the ProQuest submission process, they will give you more information on this. There's also more information on the Thesis Dissertation webpage about copyright, and when you come in for your preliminary draft appointment, I will give you a sheet on what the copyright registration is so that you can think about it before you do your ProQuest upload. The other thing ProQuest is going to offer to you is ordering bound copies for your personal use. So if you would like to buy bound copies of your thesis or dissertation, you do get an author discount. What that means is the more copies you order, the price starts to go down per book. They do a nice job of binding it. Examples are over here on the side. I do have a couple bound copies in my office, and I will show you one of them when you come in for your preliminary draft appointment. If you order bound copies, they are typically available about 8 to 12 weeks after the end of the semester. So even if you are done early and you submit your ProQuest document towards the beginning of the semester, they are all released to ProQuest by our office after the semester closes, and so bound copies are available 8 to 12 weeks after the end of the semester. Now, you're not required to get bound copies through ProQuest. This is just an option if you'd like to get them. If you prefer not to purchase bound copies through ProQuest, maybe you just don't like how these look, you can always explore your other options. There's always FedEx or Staples. They typically do comb, coil, or tape binding. You can also do a Google search and see if there are other companies out there that will bind your thesis or dissertation for you, but that's up to you. We don't require any kind of bound copies, so this is all for personal use and it's outside of our final requirements. But if you are interested in ordering a bound copy through ProQuest, that option is available to you, and it will be one of the last things that ProQuest offers to you during the submission process. Okay. Now, if you are a doctoral candidate, you have one additional requirement, and that is that you need to complete the online survey of earned doctorates. The link is available on the Thesis Dissertation webpage under Doctoral Requirements. It is not the same survey that you complete when you apply for graduation. It's a different one. It does need to be completed by the final deadline, so ProQuest and the survey of earned doctorates have to be completed by the final deadline, and the graduate school can track who has completed the survey. So we do keep track of it. We will follow up with you if we're getting close to the final deadline and we have not received it. Just like with ProQuest, the survey of earned doctorates typically takes maybe 15-20 minutes. It is repetitive, but make sure you answer all of the questions on there. And like I said, 15-20 minutes and then you're done. Once you hit your graduating semester, you can fill out the survey of earned doctorates at any time. You do not have to wait until after you've uploaded to ProQuest. So if you know that you're going to graduate this semester and you're a doctoral student, go ahead and fill out the survey of earned doctorates, and that way you can get it out of the way so that you don't have to worry about it as the semester comes to a close and you work on your defense and getting your documents submitted to ProQuest. Okay. Those were your final requirements. They're pretty easy. We try to make everything go as smoothly as possible for you. Like I said, turning in a preliminary draft does help because we can then work with you on your formatting before you have to complete that ProQuest submission. So preliminary draft is very strongly recommended. Final requirements are due no later than the final deadline. Now, a couple common questions before we move on. We get this one a lot. Is the final deadline firm, or can I turn in my document late? Well, remember, the final deadline is a firm deadline, so all final requirements must be received by 5 p.m. on the posted final deadline. And remember, deadlines can be found posted on the Thesis Dissertation webpage, so be sure that you check that ahead of time so you can make plans throughout the semester to be done on time. Another common question is, when should I defend my thesis or dissertation? Well, the graduate school actually does not set a deadline for your defense. We set deadlines for turning in a preliminary draft and for turning in your final requirements. But we do have a recommendation. So since many students are given revisions to the content of their document after they defend, we recommend that you defend no later than 2 weeks before the posted final deadline. This way you'll have plenty of time to go through any revisions that your committee members have given you before you need to get your document turned into us. All right. Once you've done all that, you're ready for graduation. So remember, graduation is handled by graduation coordination, not by the graduate school. So if you have questions on graduation, such as applying for graduation, how to get your regalia, your tickets, anything like that, that all needs to go to graduation coordination. Remember, they're in the registrar's office. Their website link is right here. If you need to call them directly, graduation coordination can be reached at 210-458-7554, but remember, the graduate school does not handle the actual graduation. Another thing to note, remember, submitting a final thesis or dissertation does not necessarily guarantee graduation. Your degree audit needs to clear, and your final grades need to go through. So degree audit is handled by your college, and then final grades. One thing I want to state about this, if you have questions on your final grades, you need to go to your advisor, to your department, or to the registrar's office. Make sure that you remember this. The graduate school does not assign your final grade. So if you're looking at ASAP and you're noticing that it still says RP and you have not gotten a grade for your thesis or dissertation, start by contacting your advisor or your department. If you want to contact the registrar's office to find out when they will be posting final grades, you can, but we are not the ones to assign your final grades, so we can't answer questions for you on your final grades. All right, so we have reached the end. That's how you handle your formatting, how you do your preliminary draft, and how you handle your final submission requirements. If you have questions, feel free to contact me. My name again is Lauren Beaver. I am the Thesis and Dissertation Officer in the Graduate School, so I'm actually the one who reviews your formatting and will work with you on your final requirements and getting everything submitted on time. You can reach me at 210-458-6409. I'm also very easily reached by email at lauren.beaver@utsa.edu. And while I do take walk-ins, I really strongly encourage you to call or email ahead of time to schedule an appointment, because I do meet with a very large number of students. But I am in the Plaza Norte building in room 2.210. That is the graduate school. So if you'd like to talk to me, send me an email, give me a call, and we can get an appointment scheduled. Again, I look forward to working with all of you, and this has been the Thesis Dissertation Formatting webinar. Thanks.